All right, good morning, brothers and sisters. We are in 2 Samuel 5, verses 11 through 21. And there's a beautiful portion of scripture here that I like to kind of touch up on a little bit. You see some ups and downs right here now that David has been established as king over all Israel. Now that David's starting to build houses for himself in different parts of the city, so when he goes here and there, instead of going all the way home, he got, I got a place in Arizona, I got a place in, New York, I got a place in Florida, one in Iowa, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So wherever David goes, wherever he roams, he has a place to lay his head. And anyway, so the king of Tyre, which I want you guys to kind of remember that the king of Tyre was a very a good king, and he specialized in he had a bunch of cedar trees, and cedar was one of the it's good wood to build from. If you use any carpenters, if you know any carpenters, cedar is a really good wood. So what they would do was they would get these logs and they would cut them down and they would take them to the ocean. And then what they would do was they would tie them up in rafts, huge rafts, and they would float them down by the ocean all the way across to where they needed to be, and they'll go on land instead of taking all those logs on land because they didn't have trucks and diesels and semis to haul it down. They would use the water, the ocean, and they would by ships. They would take them down to where they need to be. So the king of Tyre basically liked David a lot. And David and him become really good friends. They help each other out throughout the scriptures here and there in the time of David's reign and rule. Anyway, the king goes and gives him cedar trees, and David went and got a bunch of carpenters and masons to build his houses and strongholds. Now, it says here in verse 12, so David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people. David knew at this point now that God has anointed him. It's resonated. It's saturated. Like, man, I am king. I am ruler of these people. Even though he was basically the ruler of the army somewhat when he was serving under Saul, King Saul, he now realized that these people submit to him as a nation. Millions of people submit to him, and he is their ruler. Now it says that God had established his kingdom, not for the sake of David being a good leader, but for the sake of his people. Many times as men of God, when we become great in the Lord, I've had seasons where I've just been on fire. I've had seasons where there's been days where I did not sin at all. I was purposing myself to do what is right in God's eyes, and I would not lie. I would not steal. I would dirty thoughts come in, I cast them out. All these different things, I would just walk above reproach. And I would get really strong in the Lord, and God would build me up. And I would think it's for the sake of me that I would be that godly man. But it wasn't for me. It was so that I can lead my family. For the sake of my family, God was establishing me. And like a fool, I would become cocky. Instead of confident that God's doing the work in my family, I'd be cocky that God's doing the work in me. Oh, look, I went to Bible college. Oh, I'm out there rebuking demons. Oh, I did worship for this place. I did worship for that. I taught at this place. I taught at that. I laid hands on these people. And I was like, David, what are you doing, David? Get out of your own head. God is building you up for the sake of your family. That your children will not only be godly, but that they would have godly offspring. Again, God was building me up, not for my sake, but for the sake of the Martinez family. So that my kids now would not only be godly, but they would have godly spouses, and that their spouses would have godly kids too. And it blesses me so much when I see this, the understanding of that. I see it now as I read it this morning, is how it ministers to me that God is not just building people up for the sake of them. He's building people up for the sake of the family. Not just your family, but your family. So you get saved, and then your wife gets saved, and guess what? Your brothers and sisters, your uncles and aunts, the whole family gets saved. It's not just for me, And many times we can be selfish in the spirit. We can be cocky in the spirit. And that's what we tend to pride, like Lucifer, who turned into Satan. The pride of the holies, the pride of God, not the pride of God, but his pride of the power that he had that God gave him. Again, the God-given ability and talent that he was given, he became cocky and prideful and wanted to become something more, hence that downward spiral. And David knew here that God has established him for the sake of his people. So what does David do? Now he's taking more concubines. It says he takes more wives and concubines in verse 13. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 more sons, not including daughters. All right, in the next couple of years as he goes to Jerusalem. Once he gets established and he realizes this, the Philistines come out and they search for David. They find out that David was anointed king over Israel. And now they're mad. They're like, wait a minute. This fool was about to fight alongside us against his people. And now he is ruling his people. And they were just not having it. So they went to seek out David. And David was like, what should we do? David went and he hid in a stronghold. Because David knows his country, his land. He went to a stronghold. He hid there for a while, and then he inquired of the Lord and said, Lord, what should I do? And the Lord said, go up there, for I will doubtlessly deliver the Philistines in your hand. I will doubtlessly deliver them to you, just to show you and the people who is not in control, but who is God. So David went up there and just destroyed these people, and they retreated. And it says that they were defeated and that they left their images, whatever gods they took, they left them there. So that place was called Baal Perazim because it was like they broke through, it was like breaking through water. They just smashed them and annihilated them. So brothers and sisters, there's a quick recap right there on this portion of it, how David got established and how God established him, not for the sake of him, but for the sake of his people. So brothers and sisters, when you're walking with the Lord today and God's establishing you, it's not for the sake that you would be stronger and that you would be known as many, that you would be well known to people. It's for the sake that whoever you are leading, that those people would grow strong too. Remember, the shepherd is known by his flock. You see? He's known by all the sheep that he takes care of. So brothers and sisters, have a blessed Tuesday. Much love to you all. Praying that the peace of God will rule in and through you. That the joy of the Lord will be your strength. And remember, choose wisdom over the world. God bless.